Pathmook is the intelligent tool for website lead generation. With increasing online competition, over 98% of website visitors don't convert. The ability to successfully show your value proposition and support visitors in their buying journey separates you from the competition online. Pathmook qualifies and converts leads on your website by figuring out where they are in the buying journey and influencing them in key decision moments with relevant micro experiences like case studies, intro videos, and much more. Stay relevant to your visitors and increase conversions by 50%. Add Pathmook to your website in seconds. Let the AI do all the work and get access to 50% more qualified leads while you keep doing marketing and sales as usual. Check us on pathmook.com. Welcome to today's episode. Let's talk about today's guest. We have Courtney Shaw from Pierce, Washington, marketing manager with them. How are you doing today, Courtney?
I'm good. Happy to be here.
Awesome. It's great to have you on today's episode here at Pathmook Presents. And well, I'm sure our listeners are tuning in, wondering what Pierce, Washington is all about. So, Courtney, let's kick it off with that, right? In your own words, can you tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. So Pierce, Washington is a systems integrator. So what that means is you think of a large enterprise company and they go out and purchase a really high level piece of software like Salesforce Sales Cloud or Oracle, configure price quote. Well, they don't actually install or implement that software themselves. They look to partners, and that's where we come in. So we really focus on taking a high piece of software and implementing it into the organization system, making sure it all works together, training, all of that good stuff.
That's important, right? It's not cheap, so definitely have to have everything ready to go, right?
And a lot of times they don't. That's where we come in.
And so that way our listeners could get a good understanding of Pierce, Washington. Courtney, what would you say is that key problem then that you guys like to solve for clients?
Yeah, so we really focus on the quote to cash business. So when you're thinking of a company like GE, for example, right, they have a bunch of different arms of their business. The area that we really focus on is their B2B experience. And so really everything involved in like that lead to quote to order to fulfillment process is really our expertise. And so we primarily implement Salesforce, Commerce, Sales Cloud, Oracle Commerce Cloud, those sorts of technologies that really transform how a company connects to their customers or partners or distributors, right?
Definitely. Okay. And we'll talking about some vertical segments to have an ideal ICP. I mean, those are big companies. They have a lot of verticals, but is there, because you guys have, Thermo Fisher, NetApp, really two different types of verticals there. Is there one that you guys like to go for?
Yeah. So we really focus on enterprise. So for us, that's like, their ARR is 500 million up a year. And then within that, our key verticals are manufacturers because they have very complex selling processes. You look at life sciences, so like Thermo Fisher is an example where they manufacture goods. They also manufacture technology. And then also high tech companies. So like NetApp or ADP, honestly, they struggle with a lot of the same things as manufacturers of selling their services or selling their products. And so that's kind of really where we sit is manufacturing, life sciences, and then high tech.
Definitely. Okay, perfect. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that information. And let's say, as you mentioned, these verticals that you guys like to go for, high tech, life sciences, manufacturing. How would they usually find out then about Pierce, Washington? Is there a top client acquisition channel for you guys?
Yeah. So the SI space, can seem very convoluted. Like it seems very competitive, saturated, right? Really where a majority of our acquisitions and leads come from is actually our partners. So we have two cornerstone practices, one with Salesforce and one with Oracle. And so a lot of times our leads come from those partners where they are looking to implement with a partner that they just sold software to. And we come in as the implementation partner. A lot of times we're really involved in the deal cycle as well. So helping them sell their software. And And then aside from partners, it's a very referral-based business. So we actually get, a good portion of our leads and new customers come from current customers. Could be maybe a key contact at one of our cornerstone customers moved to a different organization, and they said, I want to go back and work with Pierce Washington again. So we are very much referral-based and very heavily influenced by our partner channels.
Definitely important. All right, great to hear that. And so then on that note, so that way our listeners who are tuned in could go ahead and visit you, they could always check you guys out at piercewashington.com. What role does a website then play for client acquisition?
Yeah, so we're kind of in a little bit of this transition period where we've been so partner and referral based for so long, right? We never really had a strong demand gen engine. And we're working on growing that out, right? Kind of balancing those scales a little bit and really turning marketing into a revenue center, which it hasn't been historically. So the website really kind of acts as our one-stop shop for who we are and information, right? We're not necessarily getting a high volume of demo requests, right? We're not selling t-shirts. So we're not really converting people on the website, right? It's more of that place where they do their research and decide whether or not we're a credible organization, right? So much of buyer experience is them researching themselves before they get to us. And so that's really the role that our website plays for us, is acting and demonstrating our expertise in thought leadership and building trust and credibility.
Definitely important. All right, great. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Courtney. And well, let's switch gears a little bit then, Courtney, and let's talk about you as a leader there, you being the marketing manager there for Pierce Washington. What are some key tasks you'd like to focus on your day-to-day work?
Yeah, so I am a marketing team of one. I've been a marketing team of one at my last couple of roles. And when you're a full-time marketing team of one, you do a little bit of everything, right? Which is what I like. That's how I like it. I do, everything from overall campaign strategy, content creation, social media, go-to-market assets, website maintenance, managing our vendors and contractors ends up being a very big part of that, right? While I'm a full-time team of one, I have a network of contractors that I work with that make my job possible. So, that's definitely been a key part of my role, is kind of building that team of vendors around me that I trust and can execute on more tactical things while I'm handling a lot of strategy, but also, trying to get things done like webinar promotion, right?
Definitely. Okay. Well, it sounds like you have a full plate on your hands. I mean, you already had the experience in previous jobs, so you're able to handle all of that. Awesome to hear. So on that note, then, Courtney, how do you stay, or is there a preferred channel that you like to go with when in regards to keeping up with all the new marketing strategies, trends out there?
Yeah, there's so many. You could go to about 1,000,005 different places. For me, LinkedIn is really kind of my primary learning place. I have really cultivated a network of thought leaders. I follow a lot of technologies that I use on LinkedIn because those are typically the organizations that have budget to, do lots of research into a thought leadership piece, or trends piece, or industry reports. So I definitely follow a lot of product leaders, industry leaders, colleagues, right? So I really do use LinkedIn as a good source for that for me, from a lot of different channels within that. But then also, colleagues, we've got to bond, right? But the marketers, we go through it sometimes. And so having those people you can kind of share those war stories with, or even just the other day, I called one of my marketing colleagues and was like, is this something you're having a problem with? Because I'm having a problem with this. And she was like, yeah, that's a problem right now. So just kind of spot checking with your people you trust is definitely a huge piece for me. And then also industry groups. association groups are just such a good way to like meet people outside of who you talk to all the time. And so I do interact with a lot of the industry and associations too, like AMA and stuff like that.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much for sharing those channels for our listeners as well, right? Interesting insights there. And well, let's jump into our next section here then, Courtney, which is our rapid fire question rounds. Are you ready for them?
I'm ready.
All right, perfect. Then Courtney, first off then what is the last book that you read?
Well, for work or none for just fun, one of my go-tos is designing brand identity. It's actually like a curriculum textbook, but I just have my shelf right there. That's like just whenever I'm really like feeling kind of stumped, I go back to that. But for more fun, obviously, I like to read from, you can see behind me. So one of my more recent like fun reads is a fiction book called Iron.
Definitely. Okay. Then thank you so much for sharing that with us, Courtney. Next up then is, if there would be no boundaries in technology, what would be that one thing that you want to have fixed for your role as a marketer today?
Debunking the mythical algorithm. But I feel like every time I turn around, there's a new algorithm that I have to be mindful of. I feel like as a marketer, we're constantly trying to be ahead of technology changes, right? How do I manage updates to the Google algorithm, which can really impact my brand visibility on search? How do I manage changes to the LinkedIn algorithm? Because that changes all the time, right? How LinkedIn prioritizes and rewards content. And there's just so many different ones, and you ask anyone and they're like, oh, well, it changed. Oh, there was an update last week, right? That would be my number one thing, like debunking the algorithm and maybe just like getting rid of it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's interesting. All right. Next thing, Courtney, is, if there was one repetitive task that you could automate, what would that be?
Probably updating content. I feel like whenever I make a change to wording or branding, like I would love it to just immediately translate to every single piece of content or place that it lives on my website, right? Like especially for us right now, we were historically, we've been around for 19 years, but for about 17 of them, we were an Oracle only practice. Well, the last 2.5, 3 years, we've launched a Salesforce practice, which is a big change to our messaging and our brand. And when we initially launched that, we were very conscious of like upsetting the other side of the house, right? Oracle and Salesforce are direct competitors. And while it's not unusual for a company like us to do both, you still have to balance that. You don't want to piss off one side of the house. Yep. And they're both really important pieces to us. Well, when we first did that, we kind of didn't claim either. We didn't really say Oracle. We didn't really name Salesforce. We just kind of said we do quote to cash. And now, as we're evolving, like we need to claim both. We need to claim both as our expertise. And we're at the point now where our Salesforce practice has been up for at least 2 years, that we've started to go back. And that's one of the things that I've made an effort on, is updating that language to be really clear. For people to understand what we do and claim our expertise. Well, that lives and breathes on pretty much every piece of content or asset we've put out in the market over the last 2 years. And so going back in and updating that and maintaining that list is a lot. So I would love if that just snap of a finger and I made a change on a color or a word on one thing and it changed it everywhere.
Yeah, that would be really interesting. If there's somebody out there, contact Courtney, right?
Yeah, please.
And well, lastly, Courtney, I mean, what is that one piece of advice that you would give yourself if you were to restart your journey as a marketer today?
Probably to trust my instincts a little bit more. As like a marketer, we're kind of that line, at least in more of the strategic side of marketing, where we're kind of like salespeople, but we don't actually want to sell, right? I love taking it all the way up and then making someone else close the deal. Well, a lot of times that gets construed as like, oh, you should be a salesperson. You would be a great salesperson, right? And I think a lot of times we get pushed into possibly going into sales or going outside of marketing. And I just really found that that's what I love. And so trusting my instincts, and then also like, you don't have to be the loudest to prove that you deserve to be at the table, right? I'm obviously a little earlier in my career, and I've been fortunate enough to work with senior leadership a lot, like throughout my early career, and being really close to CEOs and high-level executives, which is something a lot of young marketers don't get. And when you're in those situations, imposter syndrome is a real thing, like it's coming for you. And I think a lot of times in those situations, you feel like you have to prove that you deserve to be at the table, that you deserve to be in those conversations, especially when you are maybe the only one in that room under 35 or the only one in that room as a woman, right? And so I've kind of learned throughout, since I graduated school the last 10 or so years, is like, I don't have to be loud to prove that I'm there and prove that I deserve to be there. And just again, goes back to like trusting my instincts more.
Definitely important. Some great advice, not just for yourself, but for our listeners there. Thanks so much for that, Courtney. And we are coming to the end of the show today, Courtney, here at Pathmark Presents. But before we do end, I do want to give you the last word. So say someone forgets everything about the interview today. What is that one thing they should remember about Pierce Washington?
We transform how companies connect to their customers, and we've been doing it for 20 years. And, while we focus on a more specific part of the business of quote to cash, that our expertise is what really sets us apart, and that we handle complex projects, and we've been doing it for a long time.
Definitely important. And you can always check them out at piercewashington.com. Thank you, Courtney, for being on with us today. And to our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. And I'm looking forward to our next episode at Pathmark Presents. Thanks a lot, Courtney.
Thanks.